Good day, this is NYC Ekiti Media News. I am Oluwatofunmi Oni. The Ekiti State chapter of the Nigerian Youth Congress successfully hosted its Leadership Summit 3.0 on April 17, 2026, themed Land of Honor.
Good afternoon, distinguished guests, youth leaders, and future changemakers. I'm deeply honored to be here today. My name is Olujuwon Omotoba. I'm originally a native of Ekiti State, Nigeria. And I'm so happy to meet you all today. It's a great opportunity, such a great opportunity to be here to speak among the future change makers. And whenever I'm invited to speak about technology, innovation, digital transformation, or youth empowerment as a whole, I always remind myself of one simple truth. Before any platform, before any recognition, before any solution, there is always a story. So before I talk about technology, innovation, or anything, I would want to start with a personal story about persistence. This is a story that has actually shaped who I am today, and I believe that it holds lessons that are relevant to every single person in this room. I must say, I'm not here to waste your time, but I'm sharing from my own personal experience what has shaped who I am today. Alright, so in 2004, I gained admission into the university to study industrial mathematics. But that was not actually my dream. My dream was to be a computer engineer. I wanted to build things. I wanted to understand technology. I wanted to create solutions that could change lives. But sometimes life gives you an opportunity and not your destination. So we kept moving. And while studying this industrial mathematics, I kept writing JAMB exams again and again. Many people told me, just finish what you started. Some will even tell me, guy, accept your fate. In fact, a friend told me to stop trying. Even to make it worse, at one point, even my own dad told me that I was being overly ambitious. Because all those times I would say, Daddy, I need help, take me to University of Ibadan, help, take me to University of Benin. I think they would, at that point, I think I was stressing up the man. So he said, you this boy, you are over ambitious. You are already in one university. Just finish this first. What is it? Stuff like that happen. But I've come to realize that we look up to our parents. That's very good. But the truth is that they are also human beings. They have their breaking point. Parents make mistakes. So I wouldn't say I'm faulting him for telling me that I was over ambitious, because it's my life, it's my ambition, not his ambition. That's it. So that moment was difficult for me, because when the closest people to you do not really fully understand your vision, you begin to question what you're thinking. You begin to question yourself. At that point, you start to wonder if maybe they were even right. So maybe I was being unreasonable. I was telling myself, maybe I should just even accept what I've been given and move on. But deep inside of me, I knew I was not where I was meant to be. There was something inside me, like a voice, that has refused to be silent. It kept telling me that it was not my final destination. So in my second year, I made a bold decision. When my mates were supposed to be in 200 level, or when my mates were already in 200 level, I left the course. Started pre-degree again at Lautech. Can you just imagine how that must have looked to people around me? I had already gained admission to a university. I already started a degree program. And now I was going to throw all of that away and start all over. People questioned my sanity then, but I knew what I was doing. So in 2008, after years of persistence, I finally gained admission to study computer engineering. It was computer science and engineering then at year 1. That was when the dream began to look meaningful. And that was the course I truly wanted. That was the course I wanted. So I was finally where I think I belong. But to be honest with you, the journey was not actually smooth. It didn't suddenly become easy. Due to the repeated lecturer strikes, a 5-year degree became a 7-year journey. Everyone knows Lautech for that. But I was persistent because I believe my story, my journey, is entirely different from every other person in my class. Most of them are starting their first university experience. Most of them came from polytechnic, started direct entry into 200 level. But myself, I jumped a course to start again. So I believe my story was unique. So whenever they were complaining about the strike, my own mindset was entirely different. I was only thanking God because after all, I believe I was on the right path, and either one day I know I'll be done. So I wasn't complaining, I was only thanking God. I was full of gratitude, even though it was frustrating. It looked uncertain at a point. It tested my patience. It made me question my faith at a point in a way I cannot even really describe. But today, I stand there grateful because I learned something powerful that shaped everything that came after. And that thing is that dreams delayed are not dreams denied. The path may change, but the destination is still possible. Looking back at my journey, I have realized that some factors truly determine whether we fulfill our dreams. And I'm going to share some of them with you today. I'm going to share some of those factors with you. As young as I am, is some factors that I've been able to put together, and I can tell somebody as a mentee that this factor really matter in the race of destiny. Number 1 is what I call the God factor. I want you to understand something important. The universe, or God, or destiny, or whatever you believe in, has a way of recognizing your efforts. When you persist, when you refuse to give up, when you keep moving forward, even when the path seems unclear, there is a force that conspires to reward you. This has actually been true in my life, and I've seen it to be true in the lives of countless others. God has a way of compensating people for their past efforts. Despite the delays and the long years spent in the university, this is one miracle that I would never forget in my life. Despite the menace of joblessness out there, 11 days after completing my NYSC, I got my first job at the Ekiti State Data Center, and this opportunity changed my life totally. The consultants who employed me were working on the verification of civil servants and pensioners in Ekiti State. And suddenly, I found myself working with real-life data for the first time. That was where my journey into data and technology really began. It was a proof that sometimes the reward for persistence comes suddenly, and when you least expect it, that is when it comes. Somebody who has spent almost all their youthful years chasing a particular dream, and instead of them to join the bandwagon of joblessness, something was already cooking because God sees his consistency. It is not because I was holy, but I would just say the grace. And that is why I mentioned the God factor as number 1. In whatever we become, God factor is very, very important. The second factor is the power of mentorship. Yes. Even though some people would say they can succeed without mentors, but the truth is, you will go further and even get there earlier when you have mentors. Mentorship played a very important and essential role in my journey. That is the truth. I wouldn't underestimate the power of mentors. I would not have come this far without the mentorship of people like Mr. Gbenga Olufosoye, Mr. Odunwayo Akimade, Honorable Segun Akinwumi, and late Mrs. Modupe Abeni Olayinka. These individuals really believed in me at times when I did not fully believe in myself. At times I could not even leverage on my father's name. These individuals believed in me. They showed me possibilities I could not see on my own. You know, at a point, their names even opened doors that I did not know existed. So my message to every young person listening to this is that you should find mentors. Seek out people who have really walked the path you want to walk. Learn from their experiences. Let them guide you. This is not a sign of weakness. It is a sign of wisdom. The most intelligent people, they will say, are those who understand that they do not need to learn everything through their own painful mistakes. They can learn from the experiences of those who came before them. And let me add this to it. It is not compulsory that your mentor should be older than you. Whoever knows whatever you don't know can be your mentor. That's the truth. It's not a function of age. That is still wisdom. Learn from whoever knows what you don't know. All right, so I'll be moving to factor number 3, which is really affecting a large population of youth today, basically because I believe there is scarcity of a lot of things. So a lot of people might just not have a choice. But the truth is, you should learn to add value and not dependency. It's something very, very important. And that is where many young people fail. When you become somebody's mentee, make yourself so valuable that they will always want you around. Do not be the begging type. Do not be the type that always approach your mentor asking for money. Do not burden people with your problems and your pitiable stories. You know, do not think that mentorship means they owe you something. This approach usually destroys relationship even before it begins. So avoid this dependency mentality. When you want to be somebody's mentee, be a mentee and learn what you have to learn. Do not have to tax them, so that they can be free or have this body chemistry of being able to pour more into you. All right, so I'll be moving to number 4, which I would say is managing failure before success. Now I want to share something that I did not include in the original version of my speech, but I believe it's crucial for you to understand that it is important to know how to hold on to your failures in silence until they produce results. The truth is, nobody really cares about your sad story. The world only cares about successful people who have results. So you telling people about how you failed is not actually useful to them unless you have succeeded. But once you succeed, your failure story becomes a powerful motivation to others. Because somebody like me, I think I remember in 2019, let me give you an example. In 2019, I applied for the Tony Elumelu Foundation grant of $5,000. I was not selected, and I felt like I had failed. It was actually painful because I was like, a 14-page proposal or business plan, why would it not have won? I put in my best, did the research, ensured that my idea was genuine, and so on. But it came back as not successful. I didn't tell anyone. And I kept working on myself. And I kept pushing forward. I kept believing. And fast forward to this year, I already won 2 grants consecutively. Grants that even exceeded what I was pushing for in 2019. And now that I've been able to say I have a success story about grants or whatever, I have the boldness to now talk about my previous attempts that failed. And when I share this story, it becomes motivation to others. It becomes a proof that rejection is not final. So it becomes evidence that persistence pays off. So here is my advice. Do not broadcast your failures or trying to gather pity. Just keep building in silence. Let the world see you only when you have something worth showing them. That is, I think, managing failure before success really amounts to. And number 5, this is actually very, very important in life. The power of mentality. Beyond mentorship and skills, there is one thing that sits at the center of somebody's success: your mentality. Your mentality. Apostle Sema would say the victor's mentality. Throughout my journey, I faced seasons where the air around me was so thick with negativity. You always see people, sometimes even the closest to you, will try to project their fears into your vision. They will tell you it's impossible. They might even go as far as threatening to use words like that they want to put a curse on your progress. You know, all these threats of "I will curse you if you don't obey me," stuff like that. But the truth is, a curse only lands where there is a place for it to rest. The Bible says it that a curse curseless shall not come. And that is what I believe in. So I made a conscious decision to develop a blessed mentality. My internal dialogue became so louder than the external noise. So when people spoke failure, I spoke favor. When they saw a dead end, I only saw a roundabout and a detour. So I stood firmly on that belief that my mentality is that I'm blessed, and that because I'm blessed, my future is inherently bright. So there is nothing anybody can do to stop it. The power of mentality, very, very important. In fact, there is a book by Joyce Meyer. She wrote The Battlefield of the Mind. If anyone reads that book, it's quite important in your journey in life to learn to master and win all battles from your mind. It really helps. So you must guide your mind with more than you must guard your mind more than you guard your bank account. It's if your mentality is right, even if you lose everything, you will still build it back. I can tell you that for sure. If your mentality is right, if you lose everything, you will still build it back. But if your mentality is broken, no amount of money or opportunity can save you. So never let anybody's or someone else's limited imagination become the ceiling of your life. It is your destiny. It is your life. In fact, the fact that somebody is your parent does not mean that they own your life. They have played their part by bringing you to this world. The rest is your responsibility. So you don't have to blame your parents for your fortune or misfortune. It is your life. And it's quite important you let your mentality stay blessed. Bless yourself in the morning. Talk right to yourself. Say the right words, positive things to yourself. It usually overshadows whatever noise they say out there. Remember, the causeless shall not come. Now, factor number 6 is the attitude to money. Your attitude to money is quite important, because when you become somebody's mentee, just like I said, try and make yourself so valuable that you do not make demands from your mentors, even if you are worth more than you are getting from them. See the experience as more valuable reward. See that experience as the money they are paying you, because it will be useful in future, even when you are no more with your mentors. So it's quite important you learn to have the right attitude towards money. Now, a quick story. That attitude towards money really helped me at that time, because maybe it was because I was living with my parents, though. I was living in my parents' house, and honestly, I never cared about how much I was being paid. All I cared about was what I was learning, because I believe I was actually learning during my first job with the consultants, Mr. Gbenga, Mr. Odun Ayakimade. I was learning. I did not see it as I was working for them. I saw it as they gave me an avenue to practically learn what I think I need for the future. So I only cared about my experience. I cared about the skills I was developing. Even my mother would often say to me, "You, this boy, you fought so hard to become a computer engineer. Is it because of this small stipend? And I would always reply her, Mommy, don't worry. For those of us who know Yoruba, Mommy, I'm not worry. Ojo lamada, kódà máa gbé yín lọ Dubai. When everything is set. Sadly, Mommy is not part of my future today. But no, that season taught me a lot in life. That season of life actually taught me something so powerful that I carry with me every single day. A moment of silence for Mommy. May her soul rest in peace. Thank you. So sometimes the most valuable income is not money. It is your experience. When you are young, prioritize learning over earnings. Prioritize experience over immediate financial gain. The money will come, but the experience, the skills, the knowledge, these are what will make you truly they will make you valuable in the marketplace. The work experience is worth more than money. So years later, I visited rural schools where students could not even power a computer. Not because they lacked intelligence, not because they lacked ambition, but because opportunity had not reached them yet. We are living in the most powerful technological era in human history. We have AI, we have automation, we have data, we have remote work, we have global collaboration. The tools for transformation are all around us. But here is the uncomfortable truth. Millions of young people are being left behind. Not because they are not smart, but because they are not digitally equipped. The biggest poverty today is not financial poverty. It is digital poverty. And digital poverty creates unemployment. It creates inequality. It creates frustration. It creates even migration pressures as young people feel forced to leave their communities and their countries in search of opportunities that do not even exist at home. So it has a way of affecting everyone in our own ways. But here is what I want you to understand. This is a problem we can solve. The solution mindset. Once I understand the problem, I could no longer remain passive. I did not start with money. I did not start with investors. I started with just one question. How can technology reach the people who need it most? That was the question. How can technology reach the people who need it most? And the question led me to develop a smart movable solar energy box, a portable power solution that I designed to bring electricity to rural schools. I started this project in 2016 because before you teach technology, you must power the classroom. So I thought it was something that would bring solution in my own little way. Here is a short video of my production process of the smart energy box in 2018. Alright, so I took the equipment to some rural schools to use for free. Because before you teach technology, you must power the classroom, just like I said. You cannot teach young people to use computers if there is no electricity to power those computers. So I decided to take my equipment to them to test for free. I left it in the classrooms so they can see how a projector works and see how things are done when electricity is made available. I even powered their fans with the movable energy box. And this innovation began to attract recognition. In March 2019, my work was recognized by the Nigerian Chambers of Commerce for innovation, thanks to them. In August 2019 and 2020, I was honored to be appointed as an advocate for clean and affordable energy, SDG Goal 7 in Ekiti State, thanks to the JKF administration, John Kayode Fayemi administration, for that recognition. But I want to be clear about something. These recognitions are not just awards. They were reminders that solutions created by young people can actually make a difference. They were validations that the problem I identified was real. But then I realized, as I worked with schools and communities, I realized that there's something else. Electricity alone is not enough. You can put solar panels on every school in Nigeria, and it will not still transform the lives of young people if those young people do not have the skills to use the technology that electricity enables. That is the truth. And that realization led me to create Softclue Data Empowerment CIC, a platform focused on equipping people with digital and data skills, and this opened doors globally. A young person in Nigeria can connect with Softclue learning management system remotely and learn data analytics. They can learn digital skills. We have set up the platform to take care of their digital education needs. This is actually the revolution I wanted, and I can see it come to play gradually. Geography is no longer a barrier. It no longer determines destiny. That is the truth. Geography no longer determines destiny. Skills do. So when you have skills, you can be sure of what you carry. It is no more a function of where you are, but what do you know. And so in December 2025, I got my first grant to train a group of digitally excluded individuals in some communities in the UK. And recently in March, the UK government gave me a grant of £22,400 to enhance what we are doing and make it a success. So moving on, let me spell this out for you very clearly, because I want you to understand the world you are inheriting and the power you possess. One digital skill can create a career. A single person can learn Python programming, and that skill alone can open doors to employment opportunities. One digital skill can create a business. You can learn digital marketing and you can build an entire business helping small business owners reach their customers online. One digital skill can create global opportunities. It can, when you learn courses like, let's say, data analytics, you can work remotely for any company in the world, from any location. One digital skill can break generational poverty. When a young person from a poor family learns a valuable digital skill, they have the power to transform not just their own life, but the lives of the entire family and community. So we are living in a different era now. We are no longer in the era of who do you know. Those days are gone. Connections matter, yes, but they do not matter in the way they used to. We are now in the era of what can you do. The question is no longer about who your father is. The question is no longer about who your mother is or what connection your family has. No. The question now is, what can you do? What skills do you possess? What value can you create? Digital skills are actually the new oil. They are the most valuable resource in the modern economy. Companies are so desperate to find people that have digital skills. Countries are desperate to develop their digital infrastructures. The demand for digital talent far exceeds the supply right now. Data is the new currency. Data is what makes companies what companies now use to make decisions that will profit them. Data is what drives the current artificial intelligence. Because without data, AI would not be able to have anything to infer to. There will be no point of reference. Data is what creates the competitive advantage. So if you can understand data, if you can work with data, you have access to power. That's the truth. So I would just say AI is the new electricity. In this industrial era, electricity was the foundation of everything. Whoever had electricity then had power. But now in this digital era, guys, artificial intelligence is the foundation. Whoever understands AI and can work with AI will have power. And youth, you are the engine of the new world. You are not just the future, but you are the present. You are the ones who will build the solutions that the world needs. You are the ones who will transform your communities. And that's the truth. Now, let me redefine what a youth movement is. Because I think many people have the wrong understanding of what a youth movement is. Youth movements are not just protests. Protests have their place, yes. But a protest without solution is just noise. A protest without vision is just anger. Youth movements are solutions. Youth movements are real solutions that solve real problems. The real youth movements teach skills. They build communities. They solve problems. They create opportunities for others. Every young person must ask themselves this question: if opportunities do not exist in my community, in my region, in my country, will I complain? Or will I create them? This is the question that will determine your future. Because there are only two types of people in the world: those who wait for others to create opportunities, and those who create opportunities for themselves and for others. We need builders. We need people who will not wait for government to create jobs. We need people who are innovators, who will create businesses and create jobs for others. We need people who will look at problems and say, I can solve this. I can create a better way to get this resolved. We need leaders. We need people who will inspire others and empower others to achieve their potential. Be that person. So the future will not be inherited. No. It will not be handed down to you by previous generations. The future will not be given to you by the future generation that, take, this is the future. No. The future will be built. It will be built by people like you and I. It will be built by your hands, your minds, your creativity, your determination. And the builders are in this room today. Let me leave you with this final message. Do not wait for that perfect condition. That condition will never be perfect. There will always be obstacles. There will always be challenges. There will always be reasons to delay. Don't wait for permission. Nobody is going to give you permission to succeed. That's the truth. Nobody is going to hand you a certificate that says you are now allowed to pursue your dreams. No. You have to give yourself that permission. Don't wait for opportunity. Opportunity is not something that comes to you and say, here I am, I'm opportunity. Opportunity is something you create. Create it. Create one today. Learn a digital skill. Not just any skill. A skill that the world needs and we pay for. Teach someone else. Once you have something you have learned, once you have learned something, share it. Because the world does not change through individual achievement. That's the truth. The world does not change through individual achievement. The world changes through collective elevation. Start something small, but you do not need a lot of money to even start. In most times, you need the willingness. Most times you don't need a lot of resources. I remember when I was going to build the energy box, it was just a furniture nearby I walked up to, and he used his planks, and they called it MBF wood, and that was how I started. I just pictured it in my mind and brought these woods together. I knew that if this thing had an inverter in it connected to a solar panel and a battery, it's definitely gonna work, but I just need it to be smarter and mobile. So bros, please put tire, let's see how it can work out. And boom, it came true. And I took it to school, they used it, and that was it. So you do not need a lot of resources. You only need an idea. You need determination. You need the willingness to begin. Build something meaningful. Build something that solves problems. Build something that helps people. Build something you can be proud of. All right. So because the future belongs to those who prepare for it, And I believe the next generation of innovators, leaders, and change makers are sitting right here in this room. Thank you.